Hey, what's up guys, it's RB Hardware, and in today's video we're gonna build the best gaming PC under $1,500 that you can get in late 2020 and in 2021. Now for $1,378 to be specific, you're getting a powerhouse of a PC and you will be able to run all games maxed out at 1440p with great frame rate and even 4K with high level of details will look and feel very smooth as well. And in case you're interested what kind of frame rate you can expect in some of the most popular games, you can just jump over to the gaming benchmark section and you find timestamps down below. Now if you're spending $1,500 for your gaming PC, expecting silky smooth frame rate even at 4K only makes sense, right? Anyway, for this particular build we find an NZXT H510 Elite, a high quality B550 ROG motherboard from Asus, 16GB of RAM and a 5th gen Ryzen processor with a very affordable dual fan cooler from RTX and an RTX 3070 graphics card, and again housed in this very nice looking NZXT case. We're gonna go over all the specific parts in today's video, including gaming benchmarks, so that you get a good idea how this PC performs. So with that said, let's start talking about the parts, but before we do, I do appreciate if you guys checked out the channel. I post PC tech and building PC guides, and I also review monitors, so be sure to drop a comment, let me know what you thought about this video, drop a like if you enjoyed the content, and subscribe to never miss any of the upcoming future PC builds. So for our CPU for today's build, I went with AMD's brand new 5th gen Zen 3 based Ryzen 5 5600X. This is a blazing fast 6-core and 12-thread CPU that in many occasions are actually crushing all other CPUs on the market, including even Intel's best performing and most expensive CPUs out there. Now taking a quick look at some of the gaming benchmark, we see in that the 5600X actually trade blows with both the much more expensive 10-core 10900K, and it even beats Intel's latest 10th gen 10700K in Death Stranding, but even Horizon Zero Dawn runs fantastic on this 6-core 5600X. And as we can see, it is actually faster than both the 10600K and the 10700K, with only a few FPS slower than the 10-core 10900K. Anyway, the Ryzen 5 5600X has a base clock at 3.7 and a 4.6 GHz boost clock, and currently the processor only comes in one variant, but in a couple of months you will be able to pick up a non-X model as well. And the main difference between the X and the non-X model from the Ryzen lineup is that the X model has a slightly higher clock speed thanks to a better bin chip from factory. Now as I'm making this video, the only variant available is the X model, but there will be a slightly cheaper non-X model coming out very soon as well, which I'm obviously going to pick up, so make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any of my future gaming PC builds. Now the cooler I picked for today's build is the Arctic Freezer 34 Esports Duo, coming in at just $49. This will keep your CPU cool and quiet even during the most demanding gaming sessions. The cooler uses dual 120mm fans from RTX Bionics X lineup in a push and pull configuration where one fan is pushing air into the heatsink and the other one pulls the hot air and dumps it out of the back. And here is an example what the system sounds like running Battlefield 5 maxed out with ray tracing set to ultra. Now for our motherboard for today's build, I chose the Asus ROG Strix B550F, and this is a fantastic high quality B550 board that is fully compatible with the brand new 5th gen Ryzen CPUs. So this Asus board has everything you would imagine, including addressable our RGB, we got USB Type-C, we find dual M.2 slots with heat shield, a 2.5 gigabit Ethernet, high quality components in general, and a high-end ROG Supreme FX sound chip. Now the only thing that the B550-F is lacking is an internal USB Type-C connector for the front USB Type-C, and so in case you want to be able to use the front USB Type-C port, I recommend the similarly priced MSI B550 Tomahawk, which comes with an internal USB Type-C. On the motherboard, we're going to install these G.Skill Tridents RGB 16GB RAMs, and 16GB is actually more than enough for PC gaming in 2020 and in 2021, and it was only a year ago that games started to recommend that you had 12GB, so with 16GB you guys will be sitting safe for a long time. Also, the RAMs I picked for today's build are clocked fairly high, and this will give you better performance too, versus if you, let's say, picked up a 67 MHz RAM for example. And because of high clocked RAMs, we're gonna see a slight FPS boost in games. The Trident C lineup from G.Skill is one of the most popular RAMs among AMD Ryzen enthusiasts, as G.Skill is known for offering fantastic quality and performance, and more importantly, stability for its price. Next up, we got storage, and keep in mind guys, storage is fully upgradable, so you can always pick up, let's say, another M.2 or another SSD device later on if you like. But for today's build, I picked up this A2000 1TB NVMe drive with 3D NAND technology, operating over the PCIe Gen 3 protocol, which results in super fast readings up to 2000 megabytes per second and writing speeds up to 2200 megabytes per second, which is just insane. I have been using Kingston for many of my PC builds now, and they never fail to disappoint. They always seem to hit the price and performance curve with their SSDs, so I'm feeling so confident finally being able to recommend an M.2 from this company as well. Now 1TB of storage should give you enough storage to fit quite a few games, and Windows will run insanely fast with top of the line speeds here guys, so say goodbye to long lasting loading screens. Next up, the one that you probably been waiting for, our graphics card, and for today's build I chose Nvidia's brand new Ampere based RTX 3070 graphics card with 8GB of DDR6 memory, with enough power to run even the most demanding games in 4K resolution. The RTX 3070 actually trade blows with Nvidia's last gen flagship card, the 2080 Ti, and so you can imagine that this is a powerhouse of a graphics card, and with this graphics card you will be sitting safe for a very long time. Now this particular card, as you can see, comes with a backplate, we got some RGB in the front, and it uses Asus dual fan cooling design with something called 0 dB mode, and this means that the fans won't even spin at all until you reach, I think it's around 50 degrees or something, and even then it is almost impossible to hear the card spin at all. We'll be covering the gaming performance in just a second. Next up, we're gonna talk about our chassis, and for today's build I chose the NZXT H510 Elite. I know some of you guys don't like this case because of the lackluster airflow, and I do agree guys, the airflow isn't the best in this case, but it is still good enough airflow. With 4 fans pre-installed in the 510 Elite, you don't have to worry about this PC throttling performance, and even after hours of gaming guys, we see in perfectly fine thermals, no problem at all. The reason I picked up the H510 for today's build is because of how reliable and aesthetically pleasing the Elite is. I've actually built in the H500 once before, and I've also used its smaller brother, the H200i, in a couple of builds as well, without any problems at all. And with NZXT you can always count on a high quality PC build experience with top of the line RGB and fan control software if you decide to pick up a case in their i lineup. And here is just how easy it is to play around with the RGB inside the cam software. And all in all, this is a reliable, high quality, minimalistic PC case with dual glass panels and a built-in smart hub that lets you adjust and customize the RGB and fan curves to your liking. finally we have the power supply, and to be on the safe side, although 550 watts of power is totally safe for a PC build today, just a quick look here guys, you will see that the typical RTX 3070 based gaming system consumes around 320 watts for the entire system. I still felt like, because we're spending over $1,000 for a PC build today, it is always nice having a bit of extra headroom in case you, let's say, want to upgrade to a more powerful graphics card later on, or if you want to do some overclocking for example. And so for that reason I picked up the RM750 80 plus gold certified power supply from Corsair for today's build, and this one cost me around $100 here in Sweden. However, for some odd reason it seems to be much more expensive in other countries, so therefore I had to rethink this a bit, and so I ended up picking the CV 650 watt unit from Corsair instead. This is 80 plus bronze certified, so slightly lower efficiency, but it is still more than enough for our PC build today. Corsair is a favorite for many reasons, and I've actually had many PSUs that failed in the past in several of my PC builds. But once I switched to Corsair, I've since then had zero problems with failing power supplies. And guys, I've had PCs and servers that have been running for 10 plus years and they are still running flawlessly thanks to Corsair. So picking Corsair for my PC builds for the power supply is a no-brainer, and it's actually one of the easiest decisions I make as I'm putting together these PC builds these days. So with that done and clear, let's look at the gaming benchmarks. So Battlefield 5 is up first, and with our system in 1080p we're averaging around 170 FPS, and the RTX 3070 is about 11% faster than the RTX 2080 Super and 34% faster than the 1080 Ti. Higher resolutions means more strain on our graphics card, but even at 4K the 3070 does fantastic. Next game is Metro Exodus, starting with 1080p, where I decided to turn off both Hairworks and Advanced Physics. Now running the built-in benchmarks results in 120 FPS for a system, which is quite a lot higher than if we compare these numbers with the previous generations. As you can see, 1440p runs great on our system, and even 4K with lots of detail is possible, as can be seen. And moving on to Red Dead Redemption 2, starting with 1080p, very demanding title as we can see, where the RTX 2060 Super for example barely is able to reach a satisfying frame rate. But with that said, with an average of 100 FPS, our system does fantastic. 1440p also runs great with almost 80 FPS, however reaching 60 FPS in 4K, an RTX 3080 is needed. Anyway, if you drop the settings a bit here, you'll be able to reach a satisfying frame rate, no problem. Gears 5 is another popular title in 2020, and as we can see, the RTX 3070 once again shows that it eats 1080p gaming at max settings for breakfast. Even 1440p runs fantastic, and 4K runs great on our system as well. Division 2 is next up, and even here you should be able to run the game regardless of resolution and still reach at least 60 FPS on average with a small few tweaks on the graphics settings. Again guys, all PC components that we just went over can be found down below. Now I am starting up a Discord server guys, and it would be fantastic if you guys wanted to join the awesome community and start discussing PC builds and issues and yeah, I don't know, everything in between. Now I'm going to hang out there and answer any questions you guys might have, so you definitely want to join. Now watch either of these two videos and I will see you guys in the next video.